My name is Janine, and I am a labor and delivery nurse manager at a local hospital here in Ohio. And I've been a nurse for 6 years, and now that I'm an assistant nurse manager, I'm going to tell you basically what a day in life of a nurse is. How I stay awake at night. My husband always asks me, how do you stay awake like all night? And then, your night's off, you want to be in bed by 9:30. Well, here's why. So my shift starts out, I go in at 7 p.m. every night. And what happens as soon as I get there is I look at the staffing log. And usually we don't have enough staff, and that's typical. I think pretty much every floor you're on. But in labor and delivery, you do have staffing ratios, but it just depends what's going on. So usually I get there, and usually a patient walks in the door at 6:45, so then staffing really gets messed up. So I sit there and I try and figure it all out to make it the safest way for our unit. And sometimes that includes calling an on-call person in or switching around assignments if we have what we call a bad baby born, meaning like somebody who needs a little bit more attention, or a mom who needs a little more attention. So beyond that, then we get our assignments and we listen to what's going on the floor. Sometimes there are a lot of social issues. Me and the charge nurse go over, what's going on the floor more in detail. The other nurses go and find the nurse that they had report from so they can get a bedside report. So I kind of get the overview so I know everything that's going on because I'm in every single delivery. So when I hear somebody's ready to push is when I come in the room. And then a lot of our staff are new, so I say, okay, let me know when you start to see the head and I'll come back. Excuse me. So that's usually how that starts off. Second thing I do, so then everybody runs and get their assignments. My next job, if I don't have a patient, I try not to because I am a manager, is I go to the ORs. I have 2 ORs on my floor and I check them and make sure that they're safe and can handle an emergency at any time. It is a rule on our floor that if you're a scrub nurse, which is a nurse that hands off the instruments during procedures, your job is to reset the OR. Now sometimes things happen, you don't get to it, but that's like one of my things. I have to make sure that the OR is set because you never know what's going to walk through that door. So that's the first thing I do. Then I go around to triage and I make sure that all my monitors, usually 3 of them, are set for when I get triage patients in. A triage area is where patients go when they're pregnant, because obviously our ER, it'd be any patient, but ours are pregnant people. And we make sure, we rule out things. Are you in labor? Did your water break? Do you have a flu? Because we have rooms where everybody can go. So kind of like the triage area, we rule everybody out or rule them in. Then I walk around and see how many labor rooms I have set up. And by this time, everybody's winding down their reports and can go see their patients. So as soon as I'm done with that, I go back to my staff and I say, how's your patient doing? What happened? Because that's when I get all my complaints. Oh, she left me this, she left me that. I don't know what we're going to do about her charting. Blah, 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 blah. So I have to hear all the complaints. The worst part of my job because I hate it. Now it's at 8:30. These people have left. And I just sit there and go, oh, this is why I don't like my job. But I address all those situations, address the nurses the next day if I have to, call them at home if I have to, but I try not to. So from then on, usually we'll get another patient through the door. But before that, I try and get in touch with anesthesia to see how they're doing, give them an update on our floor. I talk to the OB doctor to see if they have anything pending coming in the door or anything like that. Then I take a look again at that next morning because for me, 4 a.m. is a big time for me and I have to go over the whole staffing for the day. So I take a look at the staffing for the next day and I go, oh geez, I don't have enough staff. Then I'll call the supervisor and ask for a float nurse, which is a nurse that usually works postpartum. So those are like my main things I do. Then beyond that, I check on my people, my coworkers, make sure they're okay and come in for deliveries. I help stabilize the patients. I help assess all the babies, assess all the moms. And then if we have a critical problem, it's never fun, but it happens. We do get a lot of people that have very unhealthy lives and therefore it leads to complications. So we treat the people as much as we can. I also go around, if it's slower or I'm not pulled into a delivery right away, that like 8:30 mark, I'll run around and just check on everybody's care, all my patients, and ask them how they're doing, how their care has been, is there anything to improve. So that's kind of like a nurse manager's point of view on a typical day. And last night at work, not much happened. We had a couple deliveries and a couple triagers, but nothing too crazy. Talk to me this past summer, you would have known a lot of craziness. But yeah, so that's a day in the life of a nurse manager.